All right. I think this is working.
Yeah, looks like it. We are here. We are live.
We're in a new location,
new
at least for
locale.
today.
That's right. Because we are dads with sick kids occasionally, we got to call some audibles, and this is, that audible.
Yeah, so we're here at my place today. Obviously, I don't have the giant shelf of games, but I've got my little moderate collection back here.
You got it.
I think this is actually more than moderate.
I was gonna say, you got several.
There's over 100.
Okay.
Yeah, there's for sure over 100.
100.
Well, and then the ones like out in the living room and all that kind of stuff.
What do I have if this is like 100?
You have way more than 100, I can tell you that.
I thought like maybe 200, but if this is 100, maybe I have 400. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be something like that. I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know.
I am Devin.
Yeah, and I'm Paul.
And we are the Dads and Dice, and we are here for our month-end review. So
Big month this month. We had a lot of games.
Yeah, it really, I think, came down to the fact that we were able to squeeze in 6 games in like 2.5 hours last week on our stream.
Let me make sure the audio's working
where
here.
we did, hopefully.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, yours is a little bit down. Your microphone's not working so well today.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was our big month. We played 6 games right at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
I also got to solo way more than I
You
typically do, which is an anomaly because I can tell you the next couple months it'll probably be soloing like 0. So I do not plan to keep that up, but I got a good amount this month.
Yeah, and actually this month I got to head to D20, the board game tavern here in town, because my parents watched Lola one night, so I got to solo some games there and play some that I haven't played in a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty good. So I think this month we had about 30 games. I counted 29 on our actual list that we keep track of, but I know there was one that you did not put on there that we'll talk about later.
We'll figure it out then.
Yeah, it's not a big game or anything like that. I just noticed it wasn't there, so.
I'm trying to think. I must have like texted you something that I played and forgot to record it, or we'll figure it out. We'll get there.
Pat is saying your mic isn't on. I know we're having some issues with that.
Yeah, it is on. We don't really know.
Let's see if this might work better. Does this sound any better? We'll use this other microphone.
Do I sound better now, Pat?
We'll try that. We have these ones. Mine seems to be working well. Don't know why that one isn't, but oh well. If this sounds better, put it in the comment there. We'll use this microphone instead. So yeah, think about that game. What could it be? I mean,
I really don't know.
I thought of it because you texted me yesterday, and you asked a question, and
oh, I know what it was. Yes,
okay,
because I was actually thinking about putting that on there.
Yeah, so
either one is fine. So all right, we'll deal this way.
We'll do this one works.
This works perfectly fine. So
yeah, we'll just go ahead and get into it.
I say we get over to it. Let's start with good old number 1.
There we go.
Number 1. Blood on the Clock Tower. Sadly,
Clock
this is
Tower.
not one I played this month. So
you haven't played this one in a long time.
I haven't. There's 0 chance I will make it to D20 for any of those sessions. So I have to do this at a convention. So that's twice a year.
Yeah, and then maybe more than once during the convention, right?
Yeah.
So Blood on the Clock Tower. This is a social deduction game or a deduction game. I guess it is just a social deduction game, where there is an evil team and a good team, and basically every time at night you're killing somebody, and the good team is trying to figure out who the demon is and get rid of them. One of those games.
Yeah, it's a not werewolf clone, but it's a werewolf
similar to werewolf
in the werewolf vein, right? Mm-hmm. Werewolf Mafia, all those kind of started the big social deduction. Evil team knows each other, but they are outnumbered by the good team, yep. And the good team has to find the evil team. Usually, typically, there's some sort of outlast mechanic. In this one, it's making it to a 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
It's always something different in each of them, but that's how Blood on the Clock Tower works. What I think Blood on the Clock Tower does that is better than any other I have played, and I've played a good handful growing up. Blood on the Clock Tower, everybody has some sort of ability. You may not have a super high impact ability, but you have some sort of ability. And then there's no true player elimination. You are still active, right? You can still talk, right? That's the biggest downfall with a werewolf. And even
some people that die, their power gives information. So it's, you want to die kind of thing.
Yeah. So, like, death isn't always necessarily a bad thing, whereas, like I said, in a werewolf, you die, you're out of the game, you can't talk anymore. You find out all the info, and so I think this one just does it better. It's always fun to play, but I think it's also much more of a time commitment, where a werewolf you can squeeze in, like, depending on the size, 30 minutes to an hour. I would say this is almost always going to be a 2-hour
90
game.
minutes to 2 hours, somewhere in there. So what I really enjoyed about this playthrough is I only got one game in. I walked in the middle of another one. But a lot of the players were new players. I think we've only played, the Trouble Brewing, so that's kind of like the base one. We've only played that one, I want to say, like once, maybe twice. And then every other time we play one of the more convoluted scripts.
Yeah, I think I have probably played Trouble Brewing the most.
Okay.
I've probably played it 7 or 8 times total.
So I haven't. I've played the other ones more, and actually really enjoyed going into the base game with those just base abilities, right? That was really nice, not having to think about, the Vortox, all this information is false, and this and that, right? My first night, I got it. I was the Raven's Keeper. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I died night 1, which is my power. That's what I needed. And we got the information that we needed. So I really enjoyed that with this playthrough, especially just kind of the base game, and I really liked it.
Yeah, Blood on Clock Tower, honestly, always a good time. If you're into social deduction games, I think it's the peak. If you're not into social deduction games,
you might not like it.
I was going to say, with the right group, this is one that you could find yourself liking.
Or one of the base scripts.
Yeah, that's right. With one of the base scripts, with the right group, this is one you could enjoy. You could also, unluckily, get a character where you do not. So
yes.
That's the unfortunate thing with it. But that's it.
Ken, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. So you just missed the first game. That's it.
Next up, we have Cartographers. You soloed this?
I did not. So, interesting, right? This one, let's see, when was this? This was at the beginning of the month. We have some friends that live in another town. Haven't seen them in a while. Ended up texting them, said, hey, Lolo really wants to see your kids. Let's get together. And they're like, his birthday's next week. Come on over.
Yeah.
So we went over there. Kids were playing, and she was like, hey, I just got Cartographers. Do you want to play it? I was like, yeah. Of course. I love this game. So we got it out. Cartographers is a flip and write where you are exploring lands and drawing maps for the queen, right? So there's 4 different seasons. Every season there's different scoring objectives that you'll be doing. So they could be like trees on the borders, or connecting mountains to corner or to borders, or having deserts and water next to each other. Just a whole bunch of different kind of criteria. And everybody flips, or there's a card that gets flipped, and everybody gets the same terrain, and then you draw it on your map. What's really cool about this game is that everybody gets the same cards, but everybody's map looks completely different at the end of it. So it's just a really cool mechanic of just flipping the card, drawing your map. There is some interaction in there with these monsters that you have that kind of mess up the person's map. Honestly, if you want to, you can remove that mechanic, and it doesn't really hinder the game much. But it's a really good one. It's a really fun one. And honestly, one of my top rolling rights.
Yeah, and you know what? Slight spoiler, but you guys may find out more about Paul and I's top rolling rights here shortly.
Yeah.
So I won't say much more about it. Cartographers, it is a great flip and write. I think the monster mechanic is so minor and it's almost always fun.
Yes.
That it never feels bad to let the other person draw.
I'll say the only time that we've removed it is when we're playing with newer people, newer into the hobby, so they don't even have games, because it is a negative player interaction, right? And you don't want to mess up their pretty drawing or their pretty land, right?
Yeah.
So maybe like the first first or second time, you remove it. But then after that, you put them back in and you figure out the game from there. Because it's really not that much.
Yeah, so that is Cartographer's great game. Next up, Circadian's First Light.
This is another one that I got to play, and I did solo this one. I actually soloed this one the night that you were playing John Company. My wife had to go to work, and I was here watching your stream, playing Circadians, right? So Circadian's First Light, if you guys watched our top 5 Dice Worker Placement game, or top 5 Dice Worker Placement games, this was both of our number 1.
Yeah.
We talked very highly about it. After that video came out, I was like, man, I'm itching to play it. I'm itching to play it. And I played it. I really enjoy this one. This is a Garfield game. As you guys know, we're huge Garfield stans. And this one, the AI just runs so smooth. You flip a card, you put the dice out on the board, it blocks those spaces for you, and then you just have to work around it. It moves its harvester just like a normal player would. It takes all the gems, it takes all the water, it takes all the resources. So it does a really good job at blocking you and you having to work around it. And it plays just like a normal player. What I really like, it doesn't matter the player count. Solo, 2 players, 3 players, 4 players, it's always going to play in that 90-minute to 2-hour range.
Yeah, and I can play relatively slow, and this one that doesn't typically affect everybody else. I'm not always the last one ready to plan. Usually everybody... It has this nice, we'll call it ebb and flow, where you have like we'll call it a harvest round and then like a spender round, and a harvest round and a spender round.
And you have to time it perfectly to not have to harvest on the last round.
Yeah, and everybody is typically in a different point. Sometimes it's my turn to, and when we're in our simultaneous planning, I take a while, and then the next round it's like, well, I'm going to 3 farms with my dice, and these 2 are just going out there, and it's pretty quick. So the planning becomes fast for me, but then slow for others. So I don't know. I think, it's always hit that 90-minute mark. It's a great game. We actually, after we did our list, I had said, man, I want to play it again because they have some variants in there I've wanted to try. Truthfully, I wanted to try the little, what do they call it, the specialist expansion where you have like the blank dice that I don't even know too much about it. I know you go to the other person's board.
And you can claim one of their...
But they get a reward if you go to their board. So I don't know if they build it out to entice it. I'm not actually sure the nuances of it. But I definitely want to play it again.
And of course, it just has more heroes, more leaders, right? Yes. And that's the game is super asymmetric because of that, right?
That is very much the game. So it'd be nice to just have more of those. So
because I always pick the same one anytime I play anyway.
Exactly. But that is Circadian's First Light.
Dice Throne. We got some dice thrown in. Of course, we got some dice thrown in. As you guys know, we've been pumping out that content. To tell you the truth, I honestly don't remember who we played, though.
Yeah, so...
we played some Marvel Dice Throne.
We played, actually, several this month because we just needed to get some kind of backlog footage in. So you guys will have some Dice Throne coming over the next couple months. We also did that right at the beginning of the month. So yes, we did Gunslinger and Tree Ant.
But we played
and that was the video we actually put out. So that was like right at the beginning of the month, and we put that video out. We then later filmed... God, who all did we play? You're going to have to wait and see, truthfully, because we played...
Pyromancer was one of them.
It was Pyromancer... Cursed Pirate.
That's right.
Pyromancer versus Cursed Pirate.
And then we did some Marvel, and we played Black Panther.
Black Panther versus Spider-Man?
Spider-Man. We know you guys like Spider-Man. We did it with the updated leaflet.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah.
And then who else did we do?
That may have been it.
Was that it?
That may have been it. I think we got 3 games of it in.
Yeah,
But again, that was towards the beginning of the month, so it's hard to remember.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, this month we played a decent amount. Plus, we have dad brains. This is our refresher of, oh yeah, we did play that game. If Paul and I didn't keep a Google Drive going of what we have played...
we would have no idea.
I would definitely forget.
Well, so I do log every game that we play, so we could figure it out.
You're
Devin
right.
tries to log it, but he always says, just text it to me later and we'll figure it out.
I don't know. I don't take the problem is I don't spend the 2 minutes to set it up. So
Mid-kids tourney of I have been seeing your tournament on there. Hello, she's asleep? Sweet. My wife just came out of my daughter's room and she heard Devin over here earlier and she came out. But we just got her a bed, so we're good now. Yes.
So now we can scream.
Bedtime only took...
She's also like right on the other side of this wall, so we actually cannot scream.
Yeah. Bedtime was almost 2 hours. It started at 7.
That's rough.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel bad because I have a sick child and I had to leave Lacey to do this for you fine people. So
so we know what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I have been seeing your tournament on the Freehawks server, and oh man, I think I saw who beat Artificer. Was it Monk that beat Artificer? I think it was Monk. People were talking about it. Looks pretty cool. That's awesome that you're doing that with your family.
That's
how you broke your kid's brain.
That's actually a really fun thing to do right there.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, honestly, it's the
idea.
perfect game for it, right? Because there is enough strategy that you can really go deep into it, but there's also so much luck that it's just you can play it with any age, right?
Yeah,
you can just
like
play it
the
with
matchups,
it's just chucking dice.
I don't know if haven't seen it, but if you made you a little bracket where you write it down, like that's just a cool thing to do. So very cool. That was Dice Thrones. We played Dogfight, Rule the Skies in 20 minutes. Or less. No,
it's just 20 minutes.
It's just 20 minutes. You got me saying or less.
Because it is always less than 20 minutes.
Dogfight. Paul and I have played this several times now.
It's awesome.
We can't say enough good things about this. A game which I would think, I don't ever typically care about theme, but this is a theme I think is near garbage, right?
You could care less about these planes.
Some biplanes, war biplanes, not something I care about at all. But Dogfight is just so much fun. It's so quick. I almost never care who wins. I'm just laughing about it the whole time. So you have this little map. I think it has 12 spaces, but it could be slightly wrong. Somewhere around there. Got a couple of loop-de-loops, and you simultaneously choose how many spaces you're going to go and if you're going to attempt to fire, and then you reveal and both players move, and so all of them can range from 0 to 5 spaces, and if you end up at least three or less spaces behind the opponent and you're firing, you hit them. So it's this cat and mouse where you're both the cats and you're both the mice, and you are just trying to think, is Paul going to move 5 and pass me if I only play a 1?
And it's this weird kind of brain games of like, what are you actually doing kind of thing.
And this time we added in, we had always played just kind of
the base game, the red and
vanilla
blue
planes that don't have any real special abilities. They just move and shoot. This time we added in a couple extra. We both got to have bigger hands, which I thought was cool. They came with downsides. So Paul's downside was, instead of being 3 spaces away, he could be 2 spaces away. My downside was...
I had to be... Yeah, you're right, 2.
You're right. My downside was, every time I got hit, I had to lose one of my tokens. So I had the potential of running out of that, and I thought that was great.
Well, what was funny about that matchup was it was kind of a good matchup for you, right? Because I had to be closer to you and able... in order to shoot you, so you didn't have to discard as many. I think I only got you once, maybe twice throughout it, so you only discarded 2. But if you have like a normal plane where it's the normal distance, that one's kind of at a disadvantage.
I think it's just skill. I just outmaneuvered you.
You outmaneuvered me.
Can I hope you are talking about Top Gun, the movie, or Maverick? Because that game was very bad, and we will never play it again.
And it has left our collection.
But Dogfight, we hopefully will play again on stream.
Dogfight is the better Top Gun.
Right?
Top Gun was the volleyball phase at the beginning, which was kind of...
Yeah, you're right. This thing could be labeled just Top Gun, and it would have been fun.
Yeah, it would have been the airplanes.
You're absolutely right.
But some other really good things about Dogfight, is like you're saying, all the asymmetric things. And you were talking about theme. Well, they really make that theme work for those planes. Like you had the one, I don't know if we mentioned it on the stream, but I think it was the green plane that had a bunch of 0 and 1 movement tokens. And so it would kind of hover in place, but you wouldn't be able to hover 2 turns in a row or else you would crash, right? And then there was the other ones that have a ton of 5 little tokens that can speed their way through it. So it's just really cool how they've got this little game in this little box that plays in less than 20 minutes that's just oozing with a theme that no one should honestly care about. And it just made it a ton of fun.
Yeah, it was. Real quick, if you are looking for our playthrough of that, you can watch it.
It is a 6-hour live stream.
Yeah, it is a 6-hour live stream we did for 500 subs. I cannot remember exactly what it was called. Maybe Paul will be diligent and link it after this video. It was fun that day because we played Terraforming Mars.
We did.
We played Top Gun.
We
finished with a dice throne, and then we played something else in there. Oh, Dice Forge.
Yeah, Dice Forge was cool.
It ended up being a whole lot of dice rolling. That's what I remember. I was like, we got to play Terraforming Mars. Maybe my number 2 game of all time. And then we just rolled dice the rest of the day.
And then Top Gun.
Yeah, so 6-hour live stream was a lot of fun. Paul and I have talked about doing something like that again.
Yeah.
Because we played games, and we just like playing games.
Honestly, the last weekend, our live stream with the fillers, that was a ton of fun because we got 6 games in one night. And usually we're getting 2 to 3, right? So 6 games that's fun.
The hard part about it is truly, it's we have to weigh like the cost of our time, right? Paul and I don't have a ton of time together, and so when we spend it doing a 6-hour live stream, it's not really, it's fun, but it's not going to get a ton of views, right? Who's going to stick around? Well, I mean, if you guys did, that's great.
That'd be amazing. Yeah.
But not a lot of people are going to stick around that whole time, and so we could record videos that just end up doing better, and so that's typically what we do when we're together. But we have talked about doing something again, for sure.
In all honesty, the streams are more fun.
Yeah, it's definitely the more fun thing to do, for sure. I love the live, I love the interaction, even though, like, Paul is typically the one that does all the interaction, because I'm like a heads-down thinker. Once we're playing, I honestly kind of forget about you people, and I'm all about my next move, and next thing I know, Paul's talking about WrestleMania or something.
Which is this weekend.
I was actually, going back to WrestleMania, didn't mean to segue into that and get way off topic. I was in Philadelphia this week for work, but I have 2 kids at home, so I could not...
Hey, Kirsten.
Could not extend my stay. And as I was leaving, so I left yesterday on Thursday, so many people at the airport with wrestling shirts.
Just perfect wrestlers.
Yeah, I was like, oh man,
I wish I could stay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so that was Dogfight. We got way off topic on that one. So let's rein it back in with Expedition.
So this video went live this week. Yeah. We posted it. Honestly, this was a game that we've had for quite some time and just haven't played it. Well, we'd played it, but we just haven't made any content for it. But this is the sequel to Scythe. And Scythe is hugely popular game, and this one kind of streamlined it in a way, kind of took a couple things, changed it up. It's still very similar to Scythe, but a different game in general.
Yeah, it if you've ever played Scythe, you're going to get the Scythe feeling right away. What it lacks is the resources. So you have 0 resource. You don't have to worry about any kind of resource management. It strips out any kind of control or combat, that kind of stuff, and then just takes it to, I guess, really the nuts and bolts of you're just going to quickly try and get stars by fulfilling these different objectives. So just like in Scythe, you were trying to put down stars. In Scythe, I believe it's 5 stars. But in this, it's going to be only 4 stars. Once you do that, you trigger the end of the game. Everything equates to coins, money, and then the wealthiest player is the winner. I did enjoy this. I really enjoy Scythe. And Scythe is got a whole lot more meat on the bone. And so I just personally enjoy that. There's a whole lot more decision space in Scythe. That does not mean this is lacking.
There's a lot of decisions.
It's just they're very shallow decisions, right?
It's go to going this tile to
this
tile.
one, this space to get, 2 of this strength, or do I go to this one to get 2 of this guile, right?
Or do I go to this one to get yellow worker,
to draw 1 card and refresh card? Do I go to this one to just draw 2 cards? I'm not saying it didn't have decisions. It just didn't have the meaty decisions that Scythe does. Still a game I would play again. It was our first initial playthrough of it. I think I would play this again. I think you could get this down pretty quick. I think our playthrough, we had some distractions during the playthrough, so it took about 2 hours.
We
but that was
it
like
down
literally
to 90 minutes.
Stop time. I think 90 minutes is probably a true play time. I think hour 15 to 90 is what you would get. Whereas Scythe, you're going to bust over 2 hours most of the time.
Personally, I enjoyed Expeditions more. Scythe was a good game. It was definitely not my favorite. I know that's probably in your top.
Yeah, top
something,
3.
Right?
I say a lot of games are that. One day I will make
definitely
that
in
list,
your top 10.
But it's definitely in my top 10 for sure.
For me, it's not. I would much rather play Expeditions.
And this one is, so a real comparison is Scythe is like a real engine builder, right? It doesn't matter what aspect you're focusing on, you're building some sort of engine. Slight caveat if you kind of go combat early. But even that, you're not rewarded for multiple combats, so you would still at some point be building an engine. This very, very small in the engine building. You're not rewarded for any deep engine building in this at all. And it's much more, you need to focus on what is the most efficient way you can get 4 stars down. Right?
Well, and so even then, we've talked about it before, you enjoy the games where you are building those engines up and then you're running those engines. I enjoy gathering resources and spending them. And this one is pretty similar to that, right?
It has
I
a lot
am
of
going
that.
to gather all these corruptions and then I'm going to spend them by getting my star. I'm going to go gather all these quests. I'm going to spend them. So it's a stripped down version of that, right? You are running a little bit of an engine with your tools and with your melded meteorites or whatever, but the basics of the game is you are collecting stuff, you are turning them in, and then that's how you're getting your stars.
Yeah. Now, I will say this game significantly more accessible than Scythe.
Yes, for sure.
Scythe is a very daunting game to teach people, even people of the hobby. It seems like it'd be simple. You have 4 actions to choose from, and you can't choose the last one. But there's just so much kind of nuance to figuring out. You can waste a lot of time not getting resources to do things that you want.
You have to be very deliberate.
Yeah, in Scythe. There's not really a bad turn. I'd put it that way. That's the type of game this is. Like, you just go to a space and do that action, and really there's not a bad thing you can do that totally hurts you. Like, you're going to be doing something that's progressing your goal. So much more easy on that. But that was that was Expeditions.
Yeah, that was Expeditions.
I think it was good. Definitely
it was a good game.
Definitely worth
enjoyed
playing.
It. Pat, I see you're pulling away from work. Yeah, I'm not a fan of working either. I'd much rather watch gameplays as well. I don't think anybody wants to work. All right. We've got Fluffy Dragons. So actually, you see this picture is kind of different. This game it was a prototype game. Generally, we don't necessarily put prototypes up here. I know we've done a couple recently, but these are games that, 2 months ago or whatever, Diabolical Drilling Company, that's getting published immediately. And this one is a good friend of ours. This is Alejandro from Lamp Games.
Wait, you have to say Alejandro's full name.
Oh, man, I don't remember it. I don't remember it. Alejandro, I don't know. Anyway, Lamp Games. And we met him a long time ago. He's one of the first people that we kind of started connecting with. We got to meet him at BGG Con last November. And he was just like, hey, can you guys please, take a look at my game, see what you guys think. And so he sent it over. So Fluffy Dragons, it's a very simple game. That's really what it is. It is a rock, paper, scissors-esque kind of game where you have 5 different elements, and then you have wind beats water and fire, or earth beats this and that. And so you have little meeples that you put out on the different elements. There's gems that you're collecting. There's some betting going on in there where I bet that Devin is not going here, or Devin is going here. So it's a lot of betting, a lot of bluffing. Honestly, not generally our kind of game, but I think it could be good to introduce to people. It could be a good 5-minute game in between games. Definitely will play better at higher player counts, because we played it at 2 and there was a variant for 2. It was good, but I do think it is one that will play better with more people.
Yeah, I see this being in the realm of just honestly, we just played fillers, the quick filler games. However, right, Paul and I played it too, so it was not the shining that this game could have, right? I can easily see this at 4, it being a real fun...
Because there's some deduction in there too.
Yeah, so the problem with 2 is that at 2... you're only ever trying to get in front of one person or behind one person, right? Because you get points for being a couple spaces behind the other person, because you kind of like dogfight. You can attack them that way, right?
Yep.
So with 2, there's only one person to do that. There's these special crystals that you can kind of go after.
The lost crystals.
The lost crystals, yeah. And so it made it... it just didn't flow super well because of that. I could see 3 or 4 that definitely changes, right? Because now it's like, oh, well, I want that crystal, but I really think so-and-so's going to go for that crystal. So-and-so's going to go behind them. I could position me behind them, hit both of them, and it's a big swing in my favor, right? And then you're balancing that with what everybody is kind of thinking. Everybody is kind of putting out a space and then potentially bluffing
that this is where you're at.
And so then that gambling mechanic, because at 2 it was very clear where the best space to go was, right? So it would be like,
for you it was, I kept
like,
if you remember,
I'm gonna go there, right? And like, well, that's just a stupid space to go to. I know you're
not going there,
right? Or vice versa, like, I'm gonna go there, and they're like, yeah, of course, that's the space you should go to. So I think that just changes at the different player count. We can't wait to try it at that. It's just Paul and I've been busy, haven't had a chance to get with our wives to play it, because this is honestly a game I think the 4 of us can play right after a game that I make everybody cry on, and
then we can go bluff.
Yeah, we can go play Fluffy Dragons and just everybody kind of laugh about, oh, you were lying and you went behind me and I thought I was so sneaky. You know, so
but this game will come to Kickstarter. It was supposed to come this month to Kickstarter, but I do think that he's gotten some feedback about changing the 2-player variant and maybe adding a couple things to the other players. It is going to be coming to Kickstarter. I want to say May or June, somewhere around there. We did make some content for it, so whenever it comes live, we'll post that and you guys can go check it out. But until then, Lamph Games on Instagram and everything. He's a great guy.
Yeah. So that was Fluffy Dragons. Over to Genotype.
Genotype. You guys saw me stream this one. If you were there, that was the day that Devin got called into work.
Yeah.
Literally a few minutes before we were starting. Genotype. It is a Mandela game of genetics. Sort of dice worker placement-esque in a way. Dice drafting.
Yeah,
dice drafting and
not
I
really
guess
worker,
you're
dice
right.
worker placement, but
dice
it's
drafting.
Definitely dice drafting.
So worker placement and
followed
dice drafting,
by a dice drafting.
Two
rounds.
Different phases.
Yeah.
But basically, you have different plants. You have the different dice that have different phenotypes, what they look like, genotypes, all that kind of stuff, and then you're placing them in your slots, in your, I forget what they call them, in your pots, and you're just trying to make different plants, make different pea plants. Honestly, it's a fun game. I really enjoy it. We played it at 3. That was good. I've played it solo. The bot ran very smoothly. The multi-use cards on there were amazing. They had a bunch of different symbols on it. And it was a fun game. It's a fun medium weight game. Do I think everybody needs it in their collection? No. do I think if you enjoy sciences, if you have some type of science background, if you teach science, anything like that, then I do think it is a good game. If you can get into the theme, then you should definitely get it. If not, it's a good medium weight worker placement drafting game.
Yeah, we talked about it last month, so I won't get into it much. But it's a game I think I would always play with it out on the table. Not one I'm ever...
it's never going to be the highlight of the day.
Yeah, reaching for. Not one I would typically ever recommend buying unless you're just into it. But yeah, it's definitely worth playing if somebody was like, hey, I have this game, Genotype, and you're like, oh, I heard the Dads and Dice talk about that. Yeah, go ahead and play it. Let's play it. You'll have fun.
Hadrian's Wall. Yours.
You didn't play it this month?
No.
Look at you. No. So cranking through Hadrian's Wall. I think I skipped last month, which was abnormal
Which I
for
played
me.
last month.
But yeah, I've just been cranking through it. Not going to talk too much about it because we talk about it basically every month. Beefy old Hadrian's Wall, Rollin' Right. Fantastic Rollin' Right by Garfield Games.
You're on Fort what?
I believe I just did Fort 11, so I got 5 more. So far, I'm perfect record. I have done every bonus.
You've done every bonus?
Yeah, done every bonus. We'll see. The next one is the first one where you double pick attacks. Or no, you add 1 to pick attacks, not double, excuse me. So basically, a lot of the last forts, that's like the hard thing of it, is you're adding to the pick attacks.
Okay.
1 to every single one.
Wow.
So we'll see how it goes.
Do you play with the promos of the picks, the ones that sometimes it doesn't attack or sometimes it attacks twice? You didn't add those in there? I have all that.
I have whatever the other promo is.
Okay.
I just didn't mix it. I probably should have because I've been saying once I'm done with these forts, I'll never play again. But maybe that's my reason to play it again. At a much, much later date. I'll be honest, I am played out on Hadrian's Wall. If it was not for how well the scenarios are at changing it, I would quit. Like this last one, I thought did a decent job. It was the one where you had to double every worker going to the forestry.
Yeah. You have to pay double the amount.
Yeah, and you'd be amazed because that's typically a track that I don't always max out, but I get very far
close
into
every time,
it. You know, I think there's like 6 spots of resources there.
Production,
and I probably always get 4 minimum, if not 5 or 6.
That's one track that I always go on.
So I don't think I got more than 2. I actually may have only gotten 1 additional resource from that. So it made me have to take cards that had resources on them.
Okay.
Right.
And then also going to the I forget what it's called, but the one that which one is it? On the
not
right
the market because the market's trading.
Yeah, the one underneath
whatever the district.
Yeah.
Not districts, precincts.
Something like that.
Yeah. So I did those obviously, but still at that, I mean, I think my last income was 5.
Jeez.
You know,
that's rough.
So it just made it very different in how to play it.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the bonus was, but I think maybe the bonus was gold card, soaring 10 or something. I don't remember. But anyway, Hadrian's Wall, it's always good. I've got 5 more games of it.
I'm still on Fort 2.
And then you won't have to hear from me about it. And then with that, the other Rollin' Right that I always do.
A lot of Rollin' Rights this month. Again, little sneak preview.
Imperial Cider's Rollin' Right. Another one I'm going to just briefly run by really quick. Not a good Rollin' Right, like I say every month, except for it has a 48-page campaign. Not campaign because they don't relate whatsoever. Well, no, they don't relate whatsoever one bit. But each one is different, and it is like uniquely different enough that makes them all fun. So I've been enjoying doing that. I think I actually knew I was going to be somewhere, and having to wait.
Okay.
So I took this and I played this in my truck in 45 minutes, like just sitting in a parking lot.
Nice.
Because
That's awesome.
I knew I was going to have to, and I'm like, I'm not a waste time type of person. Paul can tell you this. That's why we're starting late every single day. I don't get anywhere early. I plan my life
on the dot.
Yeah, on the dot, which always goes late. And so when I have time, I'm like, I have to do something with it. I played Imperial Settlers, so that was that.
John Company.
So last month we talked about it. We played this with 3-player game with Joe from Board Games for Two. This month I soloed it. I thought the solo, I thought it was going to be very complex. It is a rule book for the solo that is the same size as the thick rule book for the regular rules.
The Crown.
And it just flowed very smoothly, right? If the Crown had this position, it does X, Y, Z. You can manipulate it with A, B, C. And
it has a certain mood that it's in, and I think yours was the peacock, I want to say.
Yeah, it started off as the peacock,
right?
And like peacocks, they want to show off, and they don't care about anybody else. And so it was a unique gameplay in that I went into it.
Devin texted me right before, and he said, "This company will succeed."
Yeah, I was like, I don't care if I win. My goal is for the company to succeed. Round 1, the bot controls
peacocked.
every position but military, which is not a important position with making money at all. It only makes personal money. So it controlled all money aspects of the company, and it was selfish for itself, so it did not care about the company succeeding. So it basically was tanking the company from turn 1. So I just had to go on board with that. I like this game. I think with the right group, I think the solo was fine. But this game it's all about the negotiation, right? Like you can manipulate it. This is not the type of game I personally would ever want to solo. There's just too much randomness. I want to crunch things out and be rewarded for, let's call it my expert math and figuring things out, right?
40% chance I fail this or whatever.
I do not want, my end of the game was a whatever.
Would you say there was 50-50?
Yeah, right? It was exactly a 50-50 of whether I win or lose, right, over a 2-hour game. It's not what I want things to come down to by any means. Paul screwed me when we played 3 players, 18% chance of losing the game, and he draws the
one card.
One card that does it, right? That's not the type of games I want to play solo, but in the right environment, negotiating with people, it's kind of like a blood on the clock tower in my mind. That's the way I look at it. I won't care if I win. I just want to go in there and have fun, trying to negotiate with my friends and
that's what we've talked about. I did
betray them.
Yeah, this was not my favorite game by far, but I told you guys I will play it again because I remember you and Joe throwing everything at me, trying to make me pick somebody for the general or whatever it was, right? You guys were giving me so much money or so much cards, and it was just like, I remember that. Negotiation, again, not for me because I am not mathematically inclined like you, right? Like, oh, this has to go right and this has to go right. For me, it's just, who's giving me more stuff? Right? That's what I want. So it's not a game for everybody, but if you do have the right people for it, it's a fun one.
Yeah. So that was John Company. Next up,
Junk Art. The kids' Steam toy looking game.
Yes.
Junk Art was fun. I enjoyed it. I know you had a little bit of different views on it, but let me. I'll give you my point first.
Yeah.
So Junk Art, it is a dexterity game, right? That's what it is. There's a bunch of different scenarios. So you have some that want to have the tallest tower. You have some where you're actually switching towers. You have some where, I don't know, other stuff, right?
Yeah, there's all kinds of scenarios.
All sorts of scenarios there.
And they all play in 5 minutes.
And they all play in 5 minutes. I think this is a perfect game for, we're waiting for somebody to show up. Somebody went to the bathroom. Let's put this out real quick. For when my daughter turns 5 or 6. Hey, let's play this dexterity game. Animal upon animal is getting a little bit too easy for you. Let's do these other ones, right? It's a step up above that. This is a game where you can go to a pub anywhere and just have a beer, have a drink, whatever, and you're doing some type of dexterity game. I think it is a perfect game for that. I do not think it's a good game for two people like us to just play.
Yeah.
It's not a game to play.
Yeah, you're right. I would almost always play Animal Upon Animal over this. Like, I feel like that is more of a game than this is. This is like a clown fiesta of just flipping a card and that's what you're doing. And I don't know. It was not my favorite. I also kind of had a gut feeling that at 2 players, it was not going to be my favorite and not all that good because all of the cards... they're really made for multiple players, right? Like the last one standing, or you're trying to, stick different opponents with things. You're trying to build the tallest tower, and then it's like a scaling base, right? Yeah. Well, when there's only 2, it's tallest or the smallest, right? You're not ever in between. So I kind of knew that going in. I will say we laughed, right?
We did.
Because it was just a stupid game. But not a good game at all.
Yeah. Well, it's a good game for a specific situation. It's not a good game for if you want a strategic tactical game.
Yeah.
It's not
well, that. My thing is, when I think about dexterity games, I think of like, let's call it skill shot games, right? Okay. Where like there's a skill to balancing, this on this or whatever the case is. When you're just like doing random stuff, it was borderline like 1 minute challenge type of things.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
That was the downside of it for me, right? It wasn't like a skill of who can stack these the best. It was just here's random pieces, make it work.
Here is your first piece is a circle, make something balance on top of that.
Yeah, so
anyway,
that was junk art. That was it. Nothing more. Enough for us to talk about a little bit.
But we laughed. Next up we have Kingsburg. This is a dice worker placement game.
Yeah.
I want to say probably one of the first ones that did it. This original game was 2007. We got this game in one of the halls. I don't remember if it was the first one or the second one. But when we did that top 5 dice worker placement game, somebody said, that's one of my favorites. They saw it on your shelf. And so we were like, we just did this whole video about it. I've just played Circadians. Let me try some other ones. And we got it out and got it to the table. It is a very simple game. Very simple. Rolling dice, putting them out on workers or kingsmen, whatever it is, the king's court, and they give you resources, they give you military, they give you something.
That's it.
That's it, right?
Yeah, it's that. It's resources, military, getting to peak
at the incoming whatever.
Yeah, or 1 victory point.
Or a victory point. That's
pretty sure that was it.
So you go through a bunch of different seasons, and then there's this little catch-up mechanic. If you're the one with the least amount of buildings, you get to build more buildings. If you have something, you get an extra dice, right? So there's all these little kind of mechanics. I feel like with more playthroughs, it will play quicker than it is, but I don't know how many more playthroughs of the game I would actually do.
Yeah. So one, I thought it was a good game. There's 0 real variety besides the dice rolling. So, like Paul said, the whole point of the game is you have this board or sheet that are your buildings. You're trying to build different buildings, and there's 4 different kind of paths, we'll call it. There's not a lot of variety in that, and you're really not. You're rewarded for building every round, like that is what you need to be doing. So you're always going to build close to the same type of things. You're only going to have minor tweaks at what is the end victory points things, and even those are very minor. So I think it's one that if I were to play this 2 more times, I would enjoy those playthroughs, but I would probably have seen every aspect of that game, and I wouldn't really need to play it anymore.
Yep.
There just needs to be more variety. Now, with that said, Paul had told me we played the first edition. This game came out
2007,
15 years ago. Yeah. So there has been a second edition roughly 5 years ago, 10 years after that. That did fix those minor tweaks because I think it is a good game, right? It obviously justified having a second edition that successfully went through and people like. And it fixed those things to where there is more variety. But with what we have, play it a couple more times. I'll play it whenever I see there's an opportunity because I do think it's good. I think if I had played this before we had made my Dice Worker placement list, this would have made it on it. It was good enough for that. But yeah, it's just a simple game.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a decent game. Kind of, going back to like the genotype. It's a good medium weight game. Do you need it in your collection? Probably not. Would I play it again? Yeah, I'd play it again. Am I going to reach for it? No, but if somebody has it, I can look at the rule book and literally remember it. I watched a 5-minute playthrough of it, and I was able to teach Devin the game. So it's one that I'll remember.
Yeah, I was about to say, because a game like this probably cost about the same as the Circadians, and so it's like I would always go for a Circadians. I would always recommend a Circadian. But to that point, this game is like dummy simple. You roll dice. The worker placement spots are the numbers 1 through 18, and you're rolling 3 dice. So like your max outcome is 18. You're placing dice out on those spots. You can teach this game, and then the flow of the turn. Honestly, it's one that you could probably just start. You could teach them.
This is what we're doing this round.
You're going to try and collect resources to build something on your board. That's all you really need to teach somebody to get them going. And then the way the game flows, there's no gotchas in there. That literally, that is enough to teach the game. And I think I could be playing with a person in, besides the setup, a 2-minute teach. And we're playing the game.
What is that? Phase 1. This is 4 rounds, 3 phases.
Yes, it is so Euro. It's not even funny, right? You're playing 4 rounds,
4 phases,
each with 8 phases.
There are no dice in this round. There are dice in this round.
3 turns, and it's crazy. But
it's Kingsburg.
It flows so well that it's easy. Next up,
Legendary Forest.
So this is our second time of playing this. This is a game we got in our original haul. It is a little tile laying game. Definitely what I call filler. I think this one took us under 20 minutes. And all you're doing is you're like a dryad or something, and you're trying to build up a little flowery forest. 3 different colors, pink, yellow, and orange, and you're just trying to match the colors as best you can. Randomly, tiles will come out that cause scores, and so you place little scoring chips on the areas you think are going to be your most profitable. And I think
that's it.
Yeah, I think you play 20 tiles, and you add up your scores, and that is truly all there is to it.
Honestly, it's a great little game. I have played this one with my board game club at school, so it's easy enough to teach younger kids. But there's enough strategy in it to actually make it a pretty decent game. But also, it's one that you don't have to go in with strategy and just kind of put stuff down, and it's honestly a game for everyone. This is a really good one. Honestly, pretty underrated. I haven't heard many people talk about it, but it's a really good one.
I think it's a game where the best player and the worst player's scores are going to be within a few points of each other, and nobody's ever going to feel bad.
Yeah, you're literally just matching colors, and at the time, you're never going to know which one is the best to score. There might be a better one at the time, but the tiles that come out later are going to completely change that plan. So you might be making the best move at the time, but overall that might not be the best one.
Yeah, right? So good game. I recommend it if you ever stumble across it. But yeah, kind of like Paul said, game I would never have heard of if we didn't get it, when we bought a whole heap of games. But I'm glad I got it.
Yeah.
So next up, this was a Mexican train.
So this was the one image that I could find.
Yeah. Have you ever played Mexican Train?
Possibly.
Okay, so Mexican Train is a domino-based game where you're playing with dominoes from 0 to 12.
0?
Yeah, the blanks. 0.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
It's numbers, but never heard of it. But I need to get my games from.
Oh, awesome, Ian! Which ones did you get?
So anyway, Mexican Train. So you're playing with dominoes 0 to 12, and you start with the double 12s, and everybody then has to build off of that. And so you have to connect. You start with double 12, or you start with double 0? Start with double 12. I don't know. Double 0, one of them.
Something.
I can't remember which one you start with, and I just played it. I grew up playing regular dominoes. I grew up playing tons of Mexican Train. This is not mahjong. I wish I could play some competitive mahjong. I cannot. But
isn't that what they play in James Bond? Maybe, I don't know.
I thought they played Texas Hold'em.
I don't know. Whatever. Keep going.
Anyway, but I grew up playing, the basic this and, card games, spades, gin, cribbage, all of that. Mexican Train is not an excellent game by any means. But there is, enough skill and... First and foremost, the game lasts 4 hours. So,
really?
Yeah. It never is short.
Okay.
Because you're playing 13 rounds.
That
right?
surprises me.
And there's
no end.
There's interruptions and that kind of stuff. We freaking have to go eat dinner and feed kids and that kind of stuff. But anyway, we played with Lacey's family because they enjoy playing this, You start with, let's call it the double 12, and you play an entire round where you're going to place a 12 and then a 3, and then a 3 and then a 2. And so your goal is to run out of tiles. Whoever goes out scores no points. Everybody else scores the pip value of their points. There is enough strategy that, I can tell you, Lacey and I completely dominated this game. So it's lowest score wins, right?
Yeah.
I think my score was roughly 220. Lacey's was 260. Rest of her family was 450 plus. There's some skill to it, but very little. Mostly it's just luck, and you can also get a majority of my points came from I took the double blank tile, which is worth 50 points that I drew the round before it went out, so I couldn't get rid of it. But there's a lot of nostalgia to it. I enjoy it. They don't like playing games, but they'll play like this, And
so you get to actually do something.
So yeah, would I rather play another game over a 4-hour time span? Absolutely. But given the environment I'm in, I'll have no problem sitting there with them playing Mexican Train and just laying down tiles.
This is like that board game Renatured, right? The one that we played at Board Game Geek, right? So that you had the tiles and you're matching them, and you're obviously different, but same kind of...
Absolutely. Yeah, it's called Mexican Train because everybody's making their own train, and so you're on and off the train if you cannot play on your own.
Okay.
And so then other people can play on yours. So
interesting.
It's definitely worth playing, but just know it's a time commitment because... You play 13 rounds, and every round is going to last, we'll call it 10 minutes, and with more people, it just amplifies that. It does not get... It slightly gets quicker because you have more options to play, but at the same time, it's everybody's playing. So that's...
Ian, I see on the Origin of Species, Virulescence, and Ecosystem Savannah. Ecosystem Savannah is the only one that I've heard of theirs. I think that one's like a card tableau kind of building game in a way. Not 100% sure. But that's awesome that they sent you those. I'm glad that you reached out to them. All right, what else do we have?
Paladins of the West Kingdom.
Ooh, I played this one 3 times this month.
Dang.
I know. 3 times, and each time...
Are you ready to play me?
I don't think I can beat you still. I finally beat the AI twice. Once for sure. Once, I think I might have messed up on the AI, but if I did, it was not very much. We've talked about this game before. Paladins of the West Kingdom. It's I don't even know how you describe this game.
It's just a Euro. It's a
Euro.
Pretty thinky Euro. That's what this game is.
This game, I have a lot of history with this game. I had gotten... This was the first Garfield game I ever played. I believe you got this one before Architects. You didn't?
We definitely played Architects.
Okay, so this was the second one. Anyway, you got this one. I think you backed it on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
You brought it over. First time we played it, you absolutely destroyed everybody. Kirsten, Lacey, and me. It was like 90 to like 30s, right? You absolutely destroyed everybody. And I remember just thinking, like, I'm never playing this one again.
It's also long.
Yeah,
very
and
long.
it's long. I think at 4 players it was like 3 hours.
I believe that.
So it was just not a great experience. You've talked about it over and over, how it's probably one of your favorites. I've definitely gone heavier in my gaming. Still not to, you know, a lot of the heavy games that you enjoy. But I've definitely gone heavier, and I wanted to give this one another try, see if I could actually beat it. But I've just really enjoyed the puzzle of this one. This one is this game's a puzzle, right? It's trying to... You have your paladins that give you different abilities throughout the round, so these buildings cost no provisions, or you can absolve for no coins, or you can build these workshops for half the amount of money, right? So you have to make do with what your paladin is giving you. And you have this goal in mind, but you have to be flexible on how you get to that goal. I've always had trouble with just not getting townsfolk, which is the engine part of the game. And that's what you've said I need to do. So I finally focused on that. And that allowed me to get those points that I needed and finally beat the AI by, I think it was like 5 points or something like that. So barely beat it. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. It's been a good game to try and solve, or not solve, but try and just figure out. And I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed actually playing the game 3 times. We generally don't do that with games, right? We usually play a game once, put it away for a couple months, and play it again. So the fact that I got it 3 times to the table, I knew the mechanics, I was able to run it really smoothly. It was just a fun experience for this month, and I really enjoyed it, and it's definitely solidified its place as my second favorite Garfield game now.
That's good.
It's real good.
I was going to say, so I think the thing I really enjoy about this one is every game is going to be vastly different, even though you would think it's not, right? Like, so if you look at like an Architects, every game is not going to be vastly different, even if you have different townsfolk, even if you're doing the cathedral over, because you're just collecting resources and you're turning them in for either buildings or cathedral, whatever, right? Viscounts, I won't say vastly different. You're picking one of 3 paths to collect resources and pour your points into, right? What this one does is it really opens up, one, just base game, there's 6 kind of avenues, right? And it opens up each of those play very differently in what they're going to do back for you, right? Are you going to absolve, which is going to give you pretty good boons, right? Like, you can absolve and pray, absolve, clear a debt, right? There's a lot of things there,
Get rid of your
right?
suspicions.
Are you going to fortify, where it's going to be good points, but not really,
it maxes out,
and not really give you much of a reward, right? You know, I might get a worker, I might get a provision,
maybe
I might
2
get
points.
an extra bump on a track, right? It's you're out of control in what that does, right? Are you going to attack, which is truly going to just give you things, right? You're not going to get any extra points for it, with a caveat, but
you will go up the tracks that you need to.
Right.
One of the tracks.
Are you going to convert, where you are going to set your own point conditions, right? And so anyway, of course there's others, but the point is all of those are very uniquely different, right? And you're then compounding that by the fact that you have a thick stack of townsfolk that you never get through a third of, and all of those are going to drastically change your engine in some way. You could become a provision heavy, a coin heavy, a worker heavy. There's just so many different things that they can do, and you can mix them, and you can really tweak and tailor to the one you just played, right?
So the one that I just played, the engine that I built out was just giving me bumps up on the tracks. That's really what it was, and then giving me tax money because I also had some, I forget what they're called, but if I had a zero suspicion, then I would, that's what it was. If I had zero suspicion, I would go up the tracks or whatever. So my whole game revolved around not having criminals. I think something might have happened to the stream here. Not sure.
I think it's just you.
Okay, just me. So my whole gameplay revolved around not having any criminals, not having any suspicion, and trying to make that tax run out so that I could bump up those tracks. Now, when I had sent that to you, you said, oh, it seems like you would be very provision starved. And I was, but I was doing a lot of absolving and I was doing a lot of attacking on top of that, which I didn't really need the provisions. Luckily, one of the King's Orders was provisions, but I got the right paladin at the right time to be able to fulfill those without, too many provisions. So, just like you said, I was able to work it out in that gameplay, and I've never done a strategy like that before, and it ended up working.
Yeah, and so that's just what I like. Every game, you are going to have this board state, and you're going to kind of figure out it's going to be just different, right? And I didn't even talk about the paladins and that mechanic of really planning for your end game just based into that, and just so there's so many options. That is why I think this sits at number one for me. It's going to, I don't know. I love A Feast for Odin too, so I guess it's hard, one or two. But I don't know. I just love it because you have so much control. And there's just so much of reading of a board state. Hello, Shelby.
Hello, Shelby.
So that was Paladins. Pandemic Legacy, the game that I am currently fiddling with at the moment. Yeah. So I am not playing Pandemic Legacy Season 2.
Hey, Joe. Yeah, Pandemic Season Legacy 2. So I don't remember if we talked about this last month or if we started it this month. I don't remember.
I don't think you started it last month. I think it's all this month.
So Pandemic Season 1, you, me, Kirsten, and Lacey played. We started it January of... No, I don't know. We started it in 2019.
Yeah. Probably finished in 2023. It took us a very long time.
I know exactly when we finished it. So anyway, we played this one. We started it 2019. And actually the game holds a lot of memories for me. That's how you guys announced that y'all were pregnant the very first time.
Made a special card.
You guys made a special card for it. And the craziest part about that was Kirsten and I had just found out we were pregnant, I think the day before. So we were unsure if you guys were telling us, like congratulating us for being pregnant, or if you guys were announcing to us. Either way, there's just a lot of good memories with that game in general. We finished Pandemic Legacy the day that Rudy Gobert, the basketball player, kissed somebody before the pandemic happened. It was March of 2020. And we were getting updates all on our phone that night. I remember it very clearly. That was the night that we finished Pandemic.
Okay.
So I got Pandemic Season 2 December 2019. Didn't want to play it after everything, right? So finally, anyway, it's been sitting in the cabinet for years. We just finished Sleeping Gods not too long ago. I asked Kirsten, I said, hey, do you want to start another campaign game? And she was like, yeah, sure, I'm down. So it's on our table. We've only played January so far. Haven't done February yet. So yeah, I don't want another one either.
Yeah, no, us playing Pandemic, we hopefully have nothing to do with the last Pandemic.
But yeah, it was a really good time. I really enjoyed that one. From what Shelby has said, she said that she really enjoyed Season 2. I've heard a couple other people say that it's their favorite season as well. And from what I've seen from the first month, it's been really enjoyable. And I'm sure it's just going to get even crazier. And I'm real excited for it.
Yeah, so good. I hope you enjoy it. We were talking about it. This is a game
I said you're spoiling it.
Yeah, I have nowhere in my foreseeable future the time to ever play another minimum 12 game campaign, so I don't mind looking at this board and spoiling it for myself, because by the time I play it, I will be 80 years old and have forgotten it. So,
Pandemic Season Legacy 2.
Patchwork.
Another one of the filler games.
Americana edition of Patchwork, which actually I have to say is my preferable version.
I agree.
For sure.
Yes.
Not that I care about artwork or all that, and I love Patchwork, and I think I will always love Patchwork, but
it's down there somewhere.
I think this one just looks nicer. I also actually do think in between, they have a million versions now, but somewhere between normal Patchwork and whatever they're at now, they've made minor tweaks to button cost, and I don't know where Americana falls, if they did that in this one, or Christmas, or Halloween, or any
Valentine's
of the 10,000 editions that they have of Patchwork. But Patchwork, Uwe Rosenberg's finest game? It's up there. It's pretty good.
It's a real good one. And I think this is another one that can be played pretty much with anybody, right? You can go into it it's a very strategic game, first of all.
Very.
But if you have two people that have never played it, they will have just as much fun filling out a quilt.
Yeah.
Like that's really like what they could care less about the other stuff. You are just placing pieces and making it look good. I talk about it all the time. I really enjoy making stuff in games, and this is one that honestly one of my biggest goals in this game is to fill up my entire quilt. That's if I could do that, I would be so happy. I don't care if I lose by 30 points, which I'll probably do anyway. But it's just it's a good game that I think is accessible to anybody. If you have two people that are very heavy gamers, then it's going to be a much more strategic game. But it can be played by anybody. I really like it.
I would like to know if it's mathematically possible to
I've been
fill
one
your
away. I've been
quilt.
1 cube away, or 1 square away before. I've been. It definitely is. It definitely has to be.
Okay.
And if it's not, don't tell me. Don't ruin my life here.
I'm just,
let me.
This game has, I think, the only one that made any balance changes except Halloween.
Would be the Halloween one that changed it.
Okay.
And that's the most hideous one.
I haven't seen it.
It's orange and green and has eyeballs. It looks terrible.
Oh, instead of buttons,
yes.
It's eyeballs. Okay. But yeah, Patchwork, there is so much to this game, right? It's the button resource and managing that. It's the income of the buttons and managing that. It's the time. It's the crossing when you're going to cross compared to what your income is. It's the amount of space being covered on the quilt, because there is a value to the negative points that you're covering up. It's equivalent to points as well. There is so many avenues to this that I just think this is a fantastic game, a dang near perfect game. I cannot really think of one flaw in this game. I will play this anytime. And Paul actually came relatively close to beating me on this last one, I think.
I don't think it was this one.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not. I don't remember.
Know. But, hey.
I have come close to beating
undefeated
you before. You are still undefeated. But I don't think I was close to beating you on this one.
Yeah.
If I was, then I'm just being humble.
This was a rough one for me. We had a rough start.
Yeah, it was a very rough one.
But anyway, that was Patchwork.
Petrichor.
I can't even read that. I couldn't read it.
The patchwork eye piercing version. This is Petrichor. So I actually made it up to D20 a couple times this month. And this one, there's a local guy, Casey. He's taught us a couple games. We've played a couple games with him. So anyway, we showed up, and he had this one kind of laid out, and it looked okay. Honestly, I wasn't too interested in it. The table presence looked good, but it wasn't one that I necessarily wanted to play. He started explaining it. Honestly, it kind of was going over my head. I was going into the first turn not knowing what I was doing. But as soon as it started, it made sense. It flowed perfectly. I understood the game. Let's see if I can explain it.
Yeah, because at the moment it looks like there is stuff inside of a water droplet.
That's pretty close to what it is. Okay, so Petrichor, you have a field, and this field is just a bunch of different tiles, and you have clouds. So I actually posted a picture on the Instagram. I know you're not on there very much, but it's these actual like cloud miniatures in a way, like little standees. So on your turn, you have 6 cards, and these cards are different types of weather. So it's stuff like sun, wind, snow, possibly, and rain. So you play one of those cards, and it lets you do some type of action. So it's either put rain into the clouds, it's move the clouds into another one, make the rain fall out of the clouds, and something else. So you do all those actions. And then there's a voting mechanic that you get to vote on which weather you want to happen at the end of the round. So if it's sunny, something happens. If it's wind, right? So all those things happen there. Also, so whoever has the majority of the voting scores victory points. Now on these tiles, there's different scoring objectives on there too. So if you have the most water droplets on this tile, you get this many victory points. Or if this specific tile has this many water droplets, it will harvest. And if it's a sunny weather that you voted on, it will harvest for double the amount of points, right? So it's a lot of like interconnecting things. It's a lot of timing. And you're not going to be harvesting every single round either. That has to do with dice, and you can manipulate the dice to get harvesting faster. There's a lot going on to it, but once you play it, it makes sense. It's a game that I think you would very much enjoy. The solo was designed by David Turchsky, right? Boards and Dice guy, right?
Yeah.
And I think he had a lot to do with the actual gameplay as well.
Okay.
It's a game that I feel like you could teach anybody, but you will be on different levels if you've played the game before. It's one that you have to play more in order to really get the timing right and really understand all the intricacies of it. But it's one that is pretty straightforward once you understand the base mechanics. I don't know if that made sense. It's a game I would definitely play again.
Yeah, I'd have to see it. It's interesting, and it seems like I would enjoy trying to manipulate stuff around.
Yeah, and so, I mean, like, the clouds, right? You can only have 8 water droplets in a cloud maximum. If you have more than 8, all of the water droplets fall out, right? So, like, you can have a cloud on one tile and a cloud on another one, play a wind card, and make those 2 clouds crash, and then it turns into a thunderstorm cloud, and all of the rain falls out of it, right?
Yeah.
So, you're manipulating the area. It has a little bit of area majority into it. I don't know. It's really interesting. I had never heard of it before. Like I said, it did not really catch my attention at first. But playing it, it really clicked with me. I was in the lead the entire game until the very last turn.
As usual.
But I knew what I was doing. Like, I actually knew what I was doing this time until the very last turn. And I made one mistake, and I lost by 1 point.
Rough.
And I knew, and I texted you immediately after. I was like, I knew exactly what I should have done, and I would have won it, but it didn't work out.
Yeah,
so I goofed it. I goofed it at the end.
Okay. Well,
Petrichor.
Petrichor. Project L?
Yes.
That's what this one is?
Project L.
Project L, a little very fast-paced engine builder polynomial game.
Tetranomial?
I don't know what the difference between those words are.
Tetranomio is 4? 1, 2. Well, that doesn't make sense.
What?
So never mind.
No, that can't be it.
Is that what that is? No, quadrant. I don't know. Never mind. Don't listen to me.
I mean, because a polynomial definitely has more than...
Is Tetranomio 8?
More or less than 4.
5, that's 6. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, never mind. I'm just making stuff up.
You are making stuff up. Everybody flame Paul.
Yeah.
He's confusing us with his big science words.
That's math.
Big math words. So, anyway, Project L. You're drafting different puzzles and then filling them with these polynomial pieces, starting with just a 1x1 and then a 1x2 and so on. Every time you fill a puzzle, you immediately get all the pieces back, plus typically something related to the shape it is, and so that lets you get more pieces. You can upgrade pieces.
Welcome back, Pat.
Ultimately, you're trying to get higher point puzzles, and it played so fast. The game ended so quick.
It played so much faster than all of our other ones, I think, because I want to say the first 3 turns or something, you took so many black tiles.
I did, and it worked out well. Like, I wasn't sure. I just kind of saw the way pieces were going to fall. I think what I love the most about it is it's not as simple as just... not as simple as just... picking a puzzle and playing down pieces, because you have what is called this master action where you can play on every puzzle. So it's really manipulating your situation of, I could do the master and play on all 3 of these, or I could place this here first, complete a puzzle, and that gives me a piece I need to do the master that actually then completes another puzzle, and it's just... that, I think, is what really amplifies this game and just makes it so good. I highly recommend it. I put it in the filler category, even though there is some thinking to it. I feel
like this is filler plus.
Yeah, it's quick enough that it can sit there in the filler. So.
And it's just because I was going to say it's simultaneous play. It's really not, but it feels like it because the turns are so quick, right?
I mean,
you can see what's
snappy.
On there. Anything that you do isn't necessarily going to affect me unless you're just drafting that tile, but then a new one's going to come out. So it's a really good one. Barely a filler game because it is so thinky, but filler plus. I agree.
So, okay.
Raiders of the North Sea.
We played this last weekend.
No, we did not. I played this one with Casey again at D20. We played Raiders of Scythia, which is the next one.
We did play Raiders of Scythia. You're right.
Raiders of the North... I'm trying to think. Did I go to D20 3 times this one?
Yeah, this is the game you said you played with 6 people.
Yes. I remember that. Raiders of the North Sea, Garfield game. It is a worker placement game that does it a little bit differently. Every time you place a worker, you pick up a worker, so you're doing 2 actions every turn. Honestly, this is a great game. I love it. 4 tracks, I think. We played with all the expansions. You are basically, you have some dice, you're rolling them, you're pillaging places, gathering resources, fulfilling quests. There's Valkyries in there that might kill some of your people. Anyway, it's a great game. I played it with 6 people. It took about 3 hours. I will never play this game with 6 people again.
Yeah, this game probably
far too long.
I would bet at 3 players, it's an hour and a half.
Yes, yeah. It was far too long. 3 people have played it before. It was 3 new players, so that probably has something to do with it. But I don't know. I really enjoy this game, and a lot of times I feel games go longer than you do, but a lot of times I feel like, if I'm into it, I'm okay with it going long. This game felt long, 90 minutes in. I don't want to say it tainted the game for me, but it definitely made me never want to play this with more than 3 people ever again.
So this game has, like Paul said, that interesting mechanic of pick up and place. But really, it has 2 sections of the board you're going to. You're going to the town section of the board, or you're going to the raiding section of the board. The town section of the board is really where you spend a bulk of your game. But the raiding section of the board is really the game itself, is the best way to explain it. So when you're going to town, it's not like you're doing anything really meaningful or impactful.
Yeah.
You are just placing something to get some coins, picking up something to either spend coins or get meat or another provision or whatever, right? So I'm not going to say that's boring.
It's repetitive.
But it is very repetitive, and so you spend a lot of time there. So I can see with 6 players, and you're about to have to spend your next, we'll call it 6 turns, are going to be in town. Well, I'm going to get coins, I'm going to get provision.
I'm getting 2 cards, and I'm getting 2 coins.
Yeah, and then I know it doesn't matter what these other people do, I now have to buy this card, right, and get some more whatever. And so...
And the hard part about it was, with the workers, right? You can kind of plan in 2 or 3 player. I need that gray worker. I need that gray. That gray worker's gone immediately, right? Yeah. And so it's just like, okay, now I can't do my raid that I wanted to. Let me go to town again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I guess you can never, with a few players, you can place a worker and almost be very confident, like, I'm putting this in a position that the other 2 players cannot pick this back up. In that, you're basically looking at whoever the 2 people are before you, and those are what you're going to be doing is one of kind of their things. So, anyway, I think this is a fantastic game.
It's a great game. I really do enjoy this game.
I would also probably never play this at 6, and I don't mind playing long games, but design for up to 6.
Very true.
Yeah, exactly.
Very true. So, well, it's normally it's designed for 5. It's 6 with one of the expansions.
Correct.
So even that, like, but what Raiders does, and we can go ahead and switch it to the next one too, because it's Raiders of Scythia. It's the same game, just Scythia here is streamlined a little bit more. What Raiders of the North Sea does is it adds those tracks in, and those tracks are things like fame. If you are fighting off different Jarls, they have the armor track, which boosts up your strength. It has the Valkyrie track, which is if your people die in battle, you gain glory because your people died in battle.
Trying to think.
And then there's the victory point track, right? Yeah, so I think there's 4 tracks in total, maybe 5. And all of those work really well together. Raiders of Scythia has 1 track, and it is the victory point track. They added, instead of the armory track, they added what did they add? Is that the eagles? No,
the horses.
The horses are kind of that armor track where it gives you more people or more strength. They got rid of the Valkyries and they got rid of the Jarls. So Raiders of Scythia is a more streamlined version of the game.
Yeah. So they took all the expansions that they added, and they basically melted it down into
the core.
The core of the game, while still making it, I think, unique enough that like you can play both games and
have different experiences.
Yeah, get something different out of it. We actually just kind of talked about this in our play. Raiders of Scythia turned it more into a
pick up resources, trade resources.
Yeah, you're gonna go do this. You're hitting your things. You're getting victory points as you go. Raiders of the North Sea can be more. You can do that, but you can also do strictly in-game focus, right? Whether it's matching of quest tiles, whether it is pushing up certain tracks to get a whole bunch of points off of one kind of avenue that you're doing, killing a bunch of people. It lets you focus on some sort of in-game thing to let that be kind of your goal. Raiders of Scythia takes it to the goal of the game is raiding, so just go raid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so I think both are very good.
Yeah, we had talked about it, and I think this is kind of the consensus with this game. If you just want one game, no expansions, Raiders of Scythia is the one for you. If you are okay with getting expansions and all that, then it's definitely Raiders of the North Sea. That one is just more game. But base game to base game, Raiders of Scythia is the better one. The more, I don't want to say better. It's the one that has more stuff to it.
Yep. So that was both of them. Raiders of North Sea, Raiders of Scythia.
Rolling Realms.
Rolling Realms.
Wow, this was a long month.
I was gonna say, when the heck was this played?
Rolling Realms was spring break for me.
Ken, real quick, more robust. Pat, excuse me. More robust, not necessarily more robust, because technically it's the same mechanics, the same thing you're doing. It's how you focus on the game. So with Raiders of Scythia, you can truly focus objective to objective, right? My objective is going to be raid this Persian location, right? This Assyrian location. And that's it, right? My objective is going to be to turn in this quest. And that's it. That is like how you're going to get the resources. You're going to go do that. Then you're going to get more resources to go do another one. Raiders of the North Sea, you can have end game focus that can be your primary focus. And then, okay, what do I do to benefit the most on that end game? So, yes, I'm still raiding. Yes, I'm still going to... It's not Greece and Persia, but it's still the same type of thing. Yes, I am going to end up going to Persia, but it's really because I'm going to this space because it benefits what my end game objective. I'm doing this quest because I need to get the set for here, right? So it becomes not necessarily more robust, but more crunchy and thinky in the what is the most optimal to maximize your victory points that way.
Yeah, and even then, like we were saying, the different tracks, like you have the Valkyrie track, you want to go somewhere where it will kill off one of your people because you need that final bump up on the track. Where in Raiders of Scythia, some cards might give you a benefit for killing off your people, but it's not going to be the extra victory points for the most part, right? So
Raiders of Scythia is almost always going to play in a very tight band of scores because there's not a bad action, right? I wanted to go to Persia because it gave me one extra point, but I will just go to Greece instead, right? That's kind of the way it works. It doesn't really... everything you're doing it's going to give you bump points. I have the resource. I'm going to turn in this quest. I'm going to do that. So everybody is going to be in a very tight band. Raiders of the North Sea, the better player can maximize their scores and be further ahead than other players by a larger margin.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That's what I would put there. Anyway, we'll get back to Rolling Realms.
Rolling Realms, another flip and right. And this one is a Stonemaier game that does some really cool stuff with it. So with this game, it's very modular, right? So you've got a bunch of different realms, and the realms are just different ways to score points, kind of thing. And they act in different ways as well. So the game started off with, it was during the pandemic that it started, but it was just it was his games, and he kind of broke down the mechanics into how that card would work, right? Does that make sense? Am I making sense? I don't know. It's been a long day. So you have 3 different realms, and we'll say, for example, Tapestry. So on Tapestry, you have a grid like you do on your city for Tapestry, and what you're trying to do is fill it in with different polyomino pieces. So you'll roll the dice, and a 2 gives you a whatever kind of shape. So you fill that in. If you get this many rows and this many columns, you get these many stars. Going back to Stonemaier games, he likes those stars. You have Scythe, which is you can do this top action, but if you pay this resource, you can also do the bottom action on there. And if you do enough of those, you get a star. So the game just basically comes down to whoever has the most stars, you can play it. I've been playing it a lot with the solo mode, which basically just tells you grab this realm, and this realm, and try to get at least 13, 12, 14 stars, whatever it may be. And then it gives you certain things that you have to do. So kind of like with the Hadrian's Wall, pay 2 of this resource to do this action instead, or you can't do this action, or on this actual camp, or on this session, you will only roll 7 dice instead of 9, or could do 7 rounds instead of 9 rounds total. So it changes it enough to make it interesting, because I guess kind of like with you with Hadrian's Wall, it can get a little bit old, but that campaign makes it more replayable.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before, it's fine rolling right, not my favorite by any means. It's just not meaty enough for me. It's very, very simple decision space, so I'd be interested in trying the campaign, but
yeah, it's
not a game I typically ever gravitate towards.
So that was Rolling Realms.
Shipwrights of the North Sea. I did. I played a solo version. I played potentially my best solo version here, and it worries me because I get the exact same feeling I got with like a Twilight Inscription, where I'm like,
that's not good.
I'm like, have I seen all I'm going to see of that game, right?
Yeah.
The puzzle pieces fell in line. I I felt, godly doing it all. Everything just felt good, right? Fun experience, but like not replicable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm kind of a bit worried on that. So I don't know. This game I've been very mixed on. I don't think it's a bad game by any means, but I think there's just so much luck, and I think it literally comes down to the luck of your draft, and really we'll call it your opening hand, and then getting the puzzle pieces to kind of make that you want. And my worry is on this playthrough. I should say really quick, this is a drafting game. You draft, and then you are trying to build out ships for victory points. You also have some buildings, but mostly ships for victory points. And then it's just kind of taking your hand of drafted cards and efficiently playing them for various resources to do the things you want to do.
Which can be cards or different, the wood, stone, gold, all of those.
Yeah, multi-use of the cards. It's a very neat way that everything is done for sure. You can definitely tell where the inspiration was taken from It's a Wonderful World for sure. But I had this gameplay that I got basically resource generating cards early and was able to build them. So I was able to build a resource engine very early. I then got ships that also gave stuff early. So there is a thing where some of the ships are nothing but victory points, right?
Yep.
If that's the ships you get early, it is not going to help
not benefiting you at all.
At all, right? The opposite, there are some that give you an immediate effect right away.
Or the ones that give you the rest actions.
You're right. And if you get those, especially if you get them at the right time, like they just feed into being able to do more. And then if you draw those victory point ships late, which is when you want them, you can have... We'll call it the perfect game, and I did. I had a game where everything felt right. I was completely in control. I think I won every single one of the 3 tracks, And so I'm like, that's going to feel real bad next time I play it. And I don't get that feeling, right? Because that feeling felt very good. And that's my biggest worry with this game. So, I'm not thinking this is the game for me overall. But, hey, I will probably play it. Who knows? It's Garfield, so I'll play it another 10 times.
Yeah, I haven't played this one. When it first got released, I played it quite a bit. And I have not had that perfect game yet, right? It's been pretty difficult to beat the AI, which... I kind of have a problem with the AI scoring.
I think the AI is very garbage, and I actually don't really... I don't think this is a game you should ever...
count victories against.
Yeah, if there was ever a game that should be...
high score?
Yeah, just whatever score you get, this is it.
Yeah.
Because the AI truly does nothing. It's just random, roughly 60 points.
Yep.
Always
about 60 points. Unless you add